Arsenal stole it in Lisbon and nobody can be mad about it. Let us be completely honest with each other for a moment. Arsenal were not good on Tuesday night. They were not fluid, they were not creative, and for most of the match they looked like a team that would have been perfectly happy to fly back to London with a 0-0 and call it a decent night's work. Sporting CP hit the post twice, they created more chances, they played with more urgency and desire in front of their home fans. And yet, when the final whistle blew at the Estadio José Alvalade in Lisbon, it was Arsenal who were celebrating a 1-0 first leg lead in their UEFA Champions League quarter-final.
Football is a funny old game, is it not? But here is the thing. This is exactly how European football works. This is how big clubs operate in the Champions League. When things are not going their way, you grind, you stay compact, you trust your goalkeeper when he is in the form of his life. And then, just when everyone expects nothing, your substitute picks out a cross and another substitute taps it in on the 91st minute and suddenly the whole trip looks like a masterpiece. Welcome to Arsenal under Mikel Arteta. It is not always pretty, but it is often effective. So let us go through this game properly. Let us talk about what happened, who stood out, who struggled, and what all of this means going into the second leg at the Emirates on April 15th. Grab a seat because there is a lot to go through, how the game actually went. Arsenal started the match with a decent enough shape. They were organised, they were disciplined, and for the first 20 or so minutes, they looked like they had a game plan they trusted. The problem was that the game plan did not seem to involve scoring goals. Sporting, on the other hand, came out with real energy. Playing at home in front of a loud crowd, they pushed Arsenal back and created some real danger. The stat that tells you everything is this. Arsenal managed just 0.16 XG from 6 shots in 90 minutes of football. For those who do not follow the XG conversation, that number is extremely low. It basically means Arsenal barely threatened the Sporting goalkeeper at all. When you put that number next to the fact that Sporting hit the woodwork twice and forced David Raya into 5 saves, all from inside the penalty box, you get a clear picture of which team was the better side for most of the evening. And yet here we are, Arsenal won the match 1-0. That is football. The first half ended goalless, which was a fair reflection of how both teams had played. Arsenal were cautious and careful. Sporting were lively and dangerous but could not convert their pressure into goals. It was the kind of first half where you are checking your phone a lot. The second half was similar. Arsenal did not suddenly unlock some attacking masterclass. Martin Odegaard, usually the creative heartbeat of the team, was having one of those nights where nothing quite clicked. He dragged a decent chance wide at one point. Victor Gyökeres, who used to play for Sporting before Arsenal signed him, spent much of the night being anonymous. Leandro Trossard on the left wing offered very little, making 2 terrible efforts from distance and drifting into positions where he could not affect the game. Arteta started making changes. Off came Odegaard in the 70th minute, replaced by Kai Havertz. Then Trossard came off in the 76th minute, replaced by Gabriel Martinelli. Max Darman also came on for Noni Madueke around the same time. And then in the 91st minute, something magical happened. Martinelli, fresh on the pitch, received the ball on the left side and did not hesitate. He cut inside and floated a perfect ball into the centre of the area. Havertz, calm as you like, took one touch to control it and then slotted it past Rui Silva in the Sporting goal. The stadium went quiet. The Arsenal bench went wild. 1-0 Arsenal. Game over. It was the kind of goal that makes you think Arteta planned it all along. It was the kind of finish that makes Havertz look like a stone-cold European assassin. And it was the kind of assist from Martinelli that reminds you why Arteta keeps trusting him even when his form has been inconsistent. Sporting fans will be gutted. They did enough to deserve at least a draw on the night. But that is football. David Raya was absolutely sensational. If there is one person who kept Arsenal in this match and made the result possible, it was David Raya. There is simply no other way to say it. The Spanish goalkeeper was the reason Arsenal came away with anything from Lisbon. He made 5 saves during the match and every single one of them came from inside the penalty area. That means Sporting were getting the ball in dangerous positions and Raya had to be sharp, brave and technically excellent every single time. His standout moment came when he denied Araujo with a sensational stop that had people jumping out of their seats. He also reacted quickly to keep out a header from Catamo that looked like it was destined for the net. Beyond just the big stops, his distribution was clean and confident and he brought a real calmness to the Arsenal defence. If you compare him to how the team looked in recent matches with Kepa in goal, the difference is obvious. Raya picked up a rating of 8 or 8.5 from every major publication covering the match. That is not an accident. He was the best player on the pitch for Arsenal and it was not particularly close. A simple question for you, would Arsenal have gotten anything from this match without Raya? Think about it. 5 saves, all from inside the box, against a team that hit the woodwork twice? The answer is probably no. This is exactly why signing the right goalkeeper matters so much in modern football. Raya has become completely essential to how Arsenal play and how they survive difficult nights like this one. Declan Rice was everywhere behind Raya. The man who did the most to hold Arsenal together was Declan Rice. The England midfielder has been one of the best signings of the Arteta era, and on Tuesday night he proved again exactly why Arsenal paid so much money to bring him to the club. Rice made 3 interceptions in the opening stages of the match alone. 3. That kind of early defensive work immediately changes the feel of a game. It tells your teammates that someone is watching, someone is covering, and someone will not let Sporting just walk through the middle of the pitch. But Rice did not just defend. He was also the driving force in an Arsenal midfield that needed someone to carry the ball with purpose. And when the team was exposed down the left side at certain points, Rice tracked back and slotted in at left back to deal with the danger. That kind of positional intelligence is what separates truly great midfielders from good ones. He earned ratings of 7 or 8 from different sources covering the match, with the Evening Standard's match report giving him an 8 and calling him the driving force of the Arsenal side. That is high praise for a night when most of the team was below their best. Here is something worth thinking about. Arsenal without Rice looks so much more vulnerable. Can you imagine this match without him in the middle? Sporting would have had a field day. The players who struggled while Raya and Rice deserve their flowers. It would not be honest to talk about this match without also acknowledging the players who had a difficult evening. Ben White had a night to forget on the right side of defence. He was repeatedly exposed by Sporting winger Araujo, who seemed to find it easy to get in behind White and cause problems. The link-up between White and Madueke on the right flank was poor, and that side of the pitch was a genuine weakness for Arsenal throughout the match. Rating-wise, he picked up a 3 from the Evening Standard, which is very harsh but reflects just how tough the evening was for him. Martin Odegaard was another who struggled. The Arsenal captain is normally the man who makes the team tick, who finds the spaces, who plays the passes that others cannot see. On Tuesday night he was slow, safe, and did not carry the edge that Arsenal need from him. He dragged a decent chance wide and was replaced at the 70-minute mark. You wonder whether fatigue is playing a role in his recent performances because this has become a pattern. Leandro Trossard continues to go through a difficult spell. He has not scored in 2026 and his performances on the wing have not been good enough for a player competing in the latter stages of the Champions League. He drifted into central areas on Tuesday but nothing positive came from it. Arteta took him off just after the hour mark, and the honest truth is that Martinelli, who came on as his replacement, was immediately more of a threat. Victor Gyökeres also had a frustrating evening. The striker was invisible for large parts of the first half. He had one moment where he should have done better, but his shot was too tame. Coming back to his old stadium and not being able to find the net will sting. Gyökeres is a brilliant player, but he needs service and he needs space, and Arsenal were not able to create enough of either on the night. What does this result mean for the second leg? Arsenal go into the second leg at the Emirates on April 15th with a 1-0 lead. That is a genuinely good position to be in. An away goal in the Champions League gives you a cushion that changes how both teams approach the second match. Sporting will have to come to London and score. They cannot simply defend and hope for a draw in the second leg because that would not be enough given the current scoreline. They will have to take risks, they will have to be more open, and that actually suits Arsenal, a team that is much better at playing when they have space to hit teams on the counter. Think about how Martinelli and HAVERTZ affected this game when they came on with energy and fresh legs. Now imagine them from the start at the Emirates in front of a roaring home crowd against a Sporting side that has to push forward and leave gaps. That is a different match entirely. But Arsenal cannot afford to sleepwalk into the second leg the way they sleepwalked through most of this first leg. If they produce another 0.16 XG performance against a Sporting team that is motivated and attacking with intent, the tie could easily turn around. Arteta will be aware of this. He is always aware. The question is whether he can unlock something a bit more creative and dynamic in the second leg while keeping the defensive structure that protected Arsenal so well in Lisbon. Who do you think starts in the second leg? Does HAVERTZ get a starting spot after his winner? Does Martinelli come in from the beginning? These are the questions that make the next week of Arsenal conversations really interesting. A look back at the substitute magic. Let us take a moment to appreciate just how perfectly the substitutions worked out on Tuesday night. Arteta brought HAVERTZ on at 70 minutes and Martinelli on at 76 minutes. Both of them were involved in the winning goal just 15 minutes later. The freshness they brought was immediately obvious. The intensity went up, the pressing became sharper, and when Martinelli got the ball in that position on the left, there was suddenly a feeling that something was about to happen. The connection between Martinelli and HAVERTZ for the goal was excellent. Martinelli did not try to shoot or dribble. He saw HAVERTZ making the run, he trusted his teammate and he delivered the ball with precision. HAVERTZ then did what HAVERTZ does in those moments. He stayed calm when others might panic, took his touch and finished cleanly. It is easy to forget that HAVERTZ started his Arsenal career under some heavy criticism. There were real questions about whether he was the right fit for the club, whether he could justify the transfer fee, whether his goals tally was good enough. On nights like Tuesday, none of that matters. All that matters is that when Arsenal needed a goal in the 91st minute of a Champions League quarter-final away from home, Kai Havertz delivered it. That is a big player doing a big thing in a big moment. Give him his credit. Martinelli too deserves praise. His assist was technically excellent, but more than that, the energy he brought when he came on changed the whole atmosphere of Arsenal's attack. Arteta clearly trusts him in these moments, and that trust paid off. The bigger picture for Arsenal this season, this Champions League run matters a great deal for Arsenal. They have had some difficult moments in cup football recently, losing 2 cup ties in their last 2 matches before Tuesday night. This win over Sporting, even if it was scrappy and fortunate in some ways, is a reminder that Arsenal belong at this level. The Premier League season has been a real battle, and Arsenal have not always been at their best. The squad has shown signs of fatigue at times, and injuries have caused disruption, but there is still something to play for, and the Champions League semi-final is now genuinely within reach. If Arsenal can beat Sporting in the second leg and reach the last 4, that would be a significant achievement for this group of players. It would be validation of the project that Arteta has been building at the club over the last few years. It would also put Arsenal in the conversation with the very best clubs in Europe. But none of that happens without first taking care of business at the Emirates next Tuesday. Sporting are not going to give up. They know they were the better team in the first leg. They know they can cause Arsenal problems, and they will arrive in London with belief. The challenge for Arsenal is to be better in attack while keeping the defensive discipline they showed in Lisbon. That is the balance Arteta has to find. What the stats actually tell us beyond the goal and the result, the statistics from this match paint a clear picture. Arsenal had just 0.16 XG from 6 shots in 90 minutes. That is a very low number for a team of Arsenal's quality. It shows that they were not creating meaningful chances and were heavily relying on something coming from nothing. Raya made 5 saves, all from inside the box. That number alone tells you how much pressure Sporting put Arsenal under. 5 saves from close range is a lot to deal with in a single match. Sporting hit the woodwork twice. On another night, in another moment, they score one of those and the tie looks completely different. Rice made 3 interceptions in the opening stages alone. That kind of defensive work set the tone and stopped Sporting from getting early momentum. Zubimendi had a goal disallowed because Gyökeres was in an offside position in the build-up. Had that goal stood, the whole conversation about this first leg would be different. It is that kind of fine margin that defines Champions League ties. The numbers show a game that Sporting dominated for large parts but could not finish. And in European football, if you cannot finish, you pay the price. Arsenal paid their bills in the 91st minute. Community Corner. Let us hear from you. This is where the real conversation happens, and your views matter just as much as anything written above. What did you make of the performance? Were you worried watching the match, or did you trust that Arsenal would find a way? How much credit does Arteta deserve for the substitutions that changed the game? And how much does Raya's performance tell us about how important a world-class goalkeeper is in these tight European ties? Here are a few questions to get the conversation going. Do you think Arsenal will need to be significantly better in the second leg, or can they get through with a similar performance if the defence holds firm? Should HAVERTZ start at the Emirates next week after his winner in Lisbon? Is it time to have a serious conversation about Trossard's place in the starting 11 given his form in 2026? What do you make of Gyökeres coming back to his old club and having such a quiet game? Was that about him, or about the way Arsenal's set up? And the big one, are Arsenal genuinely capable of winning the Champions League this season, or is a semi-final run the realistic ceiling for this squad? Drop your thoughts in the comments. These are exactly the kind of conversations that make being part of an Arsenal community worth it. Final thoughts Tuesday night in Lisbon was not a masterclass. It was not a statement of attacking intent. It was not the kind of performance that makes the rest of Europe tremble, but it was a win. And sometimes in football, especially in the Champions League, a win is all that matters. Arsenal went to Portugal, faced a team that was better than them on the night, kept a clean sheet thanks to an extraordinary goalkeeping performance, and then stole the match in injury time with a moment of real quality from 2 players who came off the bench. That is not lucky, that is calculated. That is a team that knows how to suffer, how to stay in the fight, and how to take their chance when it comes. Raya was the hero, Rice was the engine, Havertz was the match winner, Martinelli was the catalyst, and Arteta, for all the criticism he sometimes receives for his team's lack of attacking adventure, made the substitutions that changed the game at exactly the right time. The Emirates on April 15th is going to be electric. Sporting will come to London knowing they can hurt Arsenal. Arsenal will come into that game knowing they have the away goal advantage and a home crowd behind them. This tie is not over, not even close, but Arsenal are in the driving seat, and that is exactly where you want to be at this stage of the competition. Whatever happens next Tuesday, you can be sure of one thing: it will not be boring. Stay tuned. The best is yet to come.